Satish, we've just come out of the session on the future of the rural economy. What did you hear this morning that was interesting?
I come away with three main themes. Firstly, the importance of technology in the rural economy. There was a lot of instances where our panelists talked about how technology just doesn't need to scale up to meet the demands of the land, but also perhaps land should scale down to meet the demands of that technology. I thought that was a very interesting point. The second point that I thought was key was on knowledge and education. There's obviously the theme about you give a man a fish, you give a man a fish and he has a meal, you teach a man to fish, he has a meal for life. There was a lot of very pertinent insights that the panelists talked about, how simple things like giving somebody an education can go a long way towards making the framework of what makes the rural economy far more sustainable for the long term. And the third point that I thought was interesting, but unfortunately we didn't get into a lot of detail about, was the concept of a flatter supply chain. How consumers, particularly in the West, need to see something that they can segregate through the entire supply chain and know exactly where it's coming from farm to fork. We unfortunately didn't get into a lot of detail about that, but I thought that was an interesting point to bring up. Those points aside, Aaron, was there anything in particular that stood out to you, or that perhaps seemed a little bit controversial or out of the box?
Well, the thing that will probably stick in my mind the most was the point that was made about how we need to think of rural environments not on their own as separate environments, but in fact related to urban environments. The point was made that rural economies actually are driven in large part, for example, by remittances from migrants who go to urban areas. And so when you think about the rural economy, you also have to think about the urban economy. And the same speaker spoke to the importance of remembering the wisdom that's present in rural environments, the wisdom that's been developed literally over all of human history, and that has an application to economic value, what we really value, what we really strive for. And so I guess to sum it up in one sentence, I'll be left with the notion that what happens in the rural economy doesn't stay in the rural economy. In fact, it's all connected, and we need to think about it that way if we really want to help rural economies thrive at a time when there's so much urbanization and people flowing away from rural environments.
So that's actually a great point. Just to build on what you just said, I think the point made by Premier Selinger of Manitoba was also interesting when he said that the role of government is really not to police what people do in these economies. It's to provide a framework, it's to provide overall processes and structures for this flow to happen. And I was very encouraged to see that the government and the private sector very much working hand in hand to make the future of the rural economy significantly more prosperous.
I think that's right. It's easy in an environment like this to think about helping them, helping someone who's in a different environment. And so the Premier made the point, as did a couple of other speakers, about the value of community-directed development, and that's very important for us. I suspect that 99% of the people here at Summer Davos live in urban environments, not rural environments, so it's important for us to keep that in mind.